Do you have live drums in your mix? If you do, then you need to do these two things before you even start your mix. Hi, my name's Tyson. I'm a mastering engineer here at Dinosaur Dog Mastering. Today we're going to be talking about the two things you absolutely need to do in your mix. Well, really, before you mix in a mix with live drums. So you need to ensure you get these right. Otherwise, your drums are going to sound flat, dull, and otherwise lifeless. Before I dive into the content though, I want to let you know that I have my ultimate mixing checklist available for download. This is part of the prep phase of the ultimate mixing checklist, so it definitely includes these steps and ensures that you go through the necessary steps to get a professional mix, because you don't want to start EQing before these two steps that we're going to be doing. Those are all in the ultimate mixing checklist. It guides you all the way through the mixing process to ensure that you get a professional mix by the end. You can get that in the first link of the description for free. It is my gift to you. With that said, let's dive straight into the content of the two things you absolutely need to do for live drums before you start mixing.
So we haven't actually started mixing yet. We're specifically going to be talking about step number 7, which is check phase and polarity on multi-mic'd audio sources. And phase and polarity are similar but very different. So we're going to be looking at polarity first. We want to look at the two loudest elements of our drum kit, which is going to be our kick and our snare all the time. Unless you have a really weird drum kit, your kick and your snare should always be the loudest elements and the elements that we're going to check on this. So we're going to look at our snare first. And as you can see, we have a very slight issue with our polarity, because as you can see, the snare top, it starts by going down, and then the snare bottom starts by going up. And so therefore we have a polarity issue. What we need to do is go to our snare bottom, add a gain plugin, invert the phase. So now, even though you can't see it, this has inverted this, so now it's going down first and then going up there and then going down, which matches the original top, snare top. And so that's what we want to do. Settle with that change. Let's check the other microphones and make sure that they're aligned with the snare top as well. So the next one we're going to check is the hi-hat mic. And let's see. So we're going up and then down. It looks like it's going down and then up, which is down and then up, which is the same as the snare top. Sorry if I confused you there. We should be good there. Okay, and then let's check our overheads. We're going down and then up on both our overheads, and we're going down and up on our snare top. Perfect. And the rooms don't matter because they're going to be far enough away. They don't actually change the polarity or phasing issues. We're actually just going to leave them be. As long as they match each other, then we'll be good to go, which it looks like they might. So we've checked all of our mics on our snares. So we got two more mics to check, which is the kick drum. We can see, okay, our actual kick in and kick out are aligned. We're going up and then down. But as we can tell, the snare top is not aligned with that. So after checking everything, we now know that everything is aligned except for the snare bottom, the kick out, and the kick in. Those are the things that do not align, because everything else is following the same thing. So even if we look at the tom, and it actually matches the snare top. So that one is aligned with the snare top. What that means is that we need to actually add a gain plugin to all of these 3 tracks, and we want to invert the phase on all of them. All right, there we go. So let's do a quick A/B. So here is the drums, and again, we're not quite done. We still have some phase issues to deal with, but we've probably gotten already quite a bit closer. So here's the before, and then I'll play the after for you. Make sure you're listening to the kick drum and the snare, because those are the two that's easiest to tell this difference in. Specifically, listen to that low end. Listen to how much more punchy the kick and the snare is. We've dealt with our polarity issues, but we still have phase issues to deal with. And phase is different than polarity because it's time-based. So, for example, we have our snare top and snare bottom are hit at exactly the same time. Both those mics are an inch or so away from the actual head of the drum, and so they get picked up at the same exact time. Things like the overheads are sitting 3-4 feet away from the snare. They are going to actually receive that audio information later than the actual snare top and bottom mics. So what we want to do is actually fix that. We just want to move these up so that they're matching the other mics. So this is going to sound even tighter now. And I always do this with the snare drum because the snare drum is the loudest element of the mix and is going to make the biggest difference, especially these overheads. Overheads, I'm probably going to high pass them somewhat. I'm going to cut out a lot of the kick, so that's going to be less impactful for the overheads. Always going to align everything to the snare if there's any question of what I'm supposed to be aligning to. And let's check the hi-hat. The hi-hat should be pretty close. It looks like it's a little bit off, so let's just bump that up. Let's check our tom here. And then again, I'm not going to move the rooms because I like the rooms where they're at. By having this slight delay in the rooms, it's actually going to allow my mix to feel a lot bigger and my drum mix a lot bigger, because in reality, we would hear something a little bit further away and we're going to hear those reflections later than we would otherwise would from the room. And so this is actually a very intentional move. A lot of people do align these and bring them up to match the rest of the kit. I don't believe that that is the best move that we should be doing. We should just allow the rooms to be where they're at and provide that just kind of bigness to the whole mix. So now we have dealt with all the phase and polarity issues. Let's do a quick A/B. Here's the before. So much more punchy, so much more tight and together. We have one more thing to do though before we call it quits, and that is actually noise gating some of these things. There's a trick that I have also for ensuring that our noise gate does what it needs to. Dynamics and then noise gate. And I'm just gonna listen. Again, I'm gonna raise this threshold until it only captures the snare hits. Okay, and so I'm raising this release quite a bit because I want it to sound more natural. If we didn't do this, that hi-hat would be really, really loud. It already is pretty loud. So the other thing that I noticed is that this tom has a lot of bleed into it. And ironically, this was already noise gated. So as you can tell, this is dying off when it catches that snare. But as you can tell, it's not picking up anything else. It's just has a really low, slow release on that. And I don't really like it picking up all that snare. And while I could try to noise gate it, a much safer way is to just go in here. I'm hitting Command and using the marquee tool and just selecting these little sections here because these are all snare hits. And so this is the same thing as going through and actually doing a noise gate, except I have a lot more control. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to gain those down 25 decibels. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to just slowly and subtly crossfade those. So we should be pretty much, those should be gone effectively. Before you are starting to mix your drums is phase aligning, which includes polarity and also phase, and then also noise gating, anything that has too much extra bleed in there. Make sure you use a longer release to make your noise gates sound more natural. Okay, with that said, I hope this is super helpful. Don't forget to pick up the Ultimate Mixing Checklist down below, and I will see you in the next one.